Hello, this is Ali, welcoming you to a festive edition of the Enfield Talking Newspaper, edition number 2078, Dateline 15th of December 2016. This is our last recording of the year, after which we will be taking a break for a few weeks. As usual, we'll bring you the local news as well as some festive cheer later on. The readers this week are Caroline, Ali and John, with Peter on the controls. Darren is away this week at his work Christmas party. And the editor was Ali, and the production and distribution team is Jean and Phillip. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include Out of Touch, Tories blast Labour over £2,000 a month rent for council properties, and Where are our lights? Residents of Edmonton's Angel area have been left in the dark with no Christmas lights for the first time in 35 years. Before the news, we have one or two special news items and notices. First, the sunrise and sunset times for Monday the 19th of December are sunrise at 8:03 and sunset at 15:53 hours. And now I want to tell you about the changes in the recycling and refuse service over Christmas and New Year. If you normally have your collection on Thursday or Friday, on the 22nd of December and the 23rd of December, they will be as usual. However, the days immediately after Christmas, Monday the 26th through to Friday the 30th of December, all of those days, your collection will be on the day following your normal collection. So Monday will be on Tuesday, Tuesday will be on Wednesday, and so forth. And then it's back to normal on Monday the 2nd of January, will be a normal collection, and so will the Tuesday the 3rd. The recycling centre will be closed from Sunday the 25th through to Tuesday the 27th inclusive. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you can't use the recycling centre. And then again at New Year, it will be closed on the Sunday. And otherwise, it will be, I think it's normally closed on Monday, isn't it? So it will remain closed on Mondays. Now, an announcement from Enfield Vision. The next drop-in will be on Thursday, January the 19th, 2017. Also, there will be no Enfield Vision Forum meeting on Monday the 2nd of January 2017 due to the bank holiday. The next meeting will be on Monday the 6th of February 2017. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now John will read the first item of local news.
Out of touch. Tories blast Labour over £2,000 a month rent for council-built properties. Council-built family homes are being offered for rent at up to £2,000 a month, sparking a political row. Enfield Council has built 29 homes in Parsonage Lane, Enfield, in a bid to meet housing need. They are a mix of affordable rent and private rent homes. But Enfield Tories have attacked the charges, saying that £2,000 a month private rent for a 4-bedroomed home is wrong. A 2-bedroom home can be rented for £1,500 a month. The local authority says the money raised by the rents paid by private tenants means it can subsidise rents for council tenants living elsewhere in the borough. Conservative housing spokesman Edward Smith said, with close to 10,000 people being homeless in Enfield and thousands of young people desperate to get on the housing ladder, I find it incredible that the Labour Council thinks it is acceptable to charge £2,000 a month to live in our borough. This is yet further evidence that the Labour Party has lost touch with the wishes of the local people. The council's Conservative group added, Despite there being a clear need for affordable, family-sized homes to be made available, the council has chosen to rent out a number of properties at full private rent value. While the group recognises the need for the council to look at ways to raise funds, at a time of housing crisis for a Labour-run council to be charging Enfield residents a small fortune to live in the borough, it is simply not right. The homes in the scheme are some of the first council houses to be built in Enfield for decades. Ahmet Oykner, the council's cabinet member for housing, said, "The Parsonage Lane site is part of a larger development of 94 units across 7 sites, with the market rent properties enabling the council to subsidise the provision of affordable housing for residents elsewhere in the borough. There are 29 properties at Parsonage Lane, of which 24 are for market rent, 3 are shared equity, and 2 are available for social rent. The split of affordable and market properties across the development is consistent with the council's planning policy. Rent levels have been set by our managing agent based on the high standard of the properties and their desirable location. Ultimately, the market will decide whether the rent is appropriate, but they are already generating a significant amount of interest."
Neighbours say they feel cut off and forgotten about because theirs is one of the only towns to not have Christmas lights. People say while Enfield is aglow with festive cheer, it doesn't feel like Christmas at all in Upper Edmonton. Residents of Edmonton Angel Community Together, REACT, say this is the first time in 35 years there have been no lights or tree. Grace Kamal, who's part of the group, said, "We've always felt like we've got a bit of a raw deal here. Recently we've been downgraded and cast off. We call ourselves the forgotten people because we feel cut off from everything. People are really angry. We have a high street but no lights. We feel marginalised, overlooked and treated with contempt, especially on a very important festive display seen in other parts of the borough. We believe that residents of Upper Edmonton are being discriminated and treated with little regard in comparison with the affluent parts." The 57-year-old claims last year colourful lights were installed and switched on, but mysteriously stopped working and nobody bothered to check why. Mrs Kamal, a mother, says she's tried to contact Enfield Council, including leader Doug Taylor, but her emails have not been properly responded to. She added, "It's probably because we're on the Tottenham border, but this area has always felt like we aren't part of Enfield because the council pays no attention to us. It's a Christian country, so we should have lights. Christmas brings the community together, especially in an area which is so culturally diverse. Why shouldn't we be treated the same way as everybody else in the country? Why shouldn't we have a big festive season down here?" There are also rumours cabinet members have suggested downsizing the funding of Christmas lights and asking businesses to pay for them instead. Resident Helen Theoharis said, "Christmas is just around the corner. You'd never know it if you lived here. There is not a Christmas light to be seen in 4th Street. Where is the Christmas spirit? Why has 4th Street been left blank? Surely we deserve to celebrate our Christmas with a few lights to bring a bit of joy to the area." Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration and Business, Councillor Alan Sitkin, said, "Enfield Council has installed a mixture of Christmas trees with lights or similar lighting in 6 town centres this year to boost trade and support retailers at the busiest part of the year. We have spent £9,000 on providing lights in Upper Edmonton this year in 4th Street. Despite significant reductions in funding from central government, Enfield Council has allocated £50,000 to replace its current ageing lighting and illuminate town centres to attract shoppers. Christmas trees with lights have been installed in Enfield Town, Palmer's Green, Southgate Circus and Cockfosters Green, while Edmonton Green will have lights installed on local buildings and Ponders End will have lights added to existing trees. It would have cost £200,000 to replace all the Christmas lights in town centres. We'd like to thank those businesses and organisations that have contributed to the festive cheer by putting up their own lights and decorations."
Drug gang man jailed for 7 years. An Enfield man has been jailed for 7 years for his involvement with a drug smuggling gang which made millions of pounds from the supply of cocaine in London, Essex and the South East. Gary Fox, 56, of Dendridge Close, was among 7 of the gang sentenced at Kingston Crown Court last Friday to a total of 60 years in prison for conspiracy to supply cocaine with a street value of £7 million. The drug network was smashed by officers from the Metropolitan Police's Organised Crime Command and Kent Police during a 7-month investigation between September last year and April this year, during which they arrested and charged 16 individuals and recovered about 70 kilos of cocaine, with purity levels ranging from 70 to 91%. As well as the cocaine, they recovered 26 kilos of a cutting agent, benzocaine, a chemical to dilute the drug and maximise profits. A ledger found at the home of one of the ringleaders revealed completed cocaine deals running into millions of pounds. The gang had a number of safe houses in Essex, where the cocaine was stored before its distribution. Fox was linked to the group's leaders and entrusted with the storage and distribution of the drugs. All 7 men had pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply cocaine at a previous hearing in August. 5 of the gang, with Essex addresses, received prison sentences ranging from 6 to 15 years. A 6th member from Broxbourne in Hertfordshire was jailed for 6 years. 8 other people had previously been convicted and sentenced in connection with the police investigation. Speaking after the latest gang members were jailed last week, Detective Inspector Ian Gibson of the Met's Organised Crime Command said that the group had conspired to import and distribute large quantities of cocaine. The complete dismantling of this group has stopped the supply of a significant amount of drugs on the streets of London, he said. The substantial custodial sentences handed down by the court should act as a deterrent to those involved in criminal and gang-related activity. The Metropolitan Police has a zero-tolerance approach to drug supply, and we will continue to target those causing harm to London's communities.
Leisure centres record boost in visitors as residents get active. The number of people getting active in Enfield has soared by nearly 40% in the first 6 months of this year. Leisure centres across the borough welcomed 8,252 more young people doing sports activities between January and June compared with the same period in 2015. Overall, 21,711 young people went through the doors at the 4 leisure centres in Enfield for a sports session in that time, up from 13,459 last year. The number of adults turning out for a sports session jumped from 13,280 in the first half of last year to 15,900 for the same time this year. Enfield Council said that the number of young people who had visited leisure centres between January and June increased by 42,802 this year to a total of 441,133. The council is encouraging people to join its Move More campaign, which urges adults to do 30 minutes of physical activity a day and children to be active for an hour. Crystal Fonyonga, the council's cabinet member for community safety and public health, said that the increase was welcome, with residents getting off the couch and participating in sporting sessions in greater numbers. Crystal Fonyonga herself took swimming lessons at an Enfield leisure centre during the summer and also learnt to cycle safely as part of her personal fitness campaign.
Crooks are caught on candid camera. Crooks arrested for possession of drugs and weapons were spotted with the help of CCTV operators in Edmonton. Edmonton police were alerted to 3 men in 2 separate incidents in the same evening, after they were caught on camera acting suspiciously last month. Operators spotted a large group of men huddled in the street in Stirling Way at 6 p.m. and saw one of the men throw an item into the bushes. The item was found to be a knife, and police arrested a man in Pims Park. Another incident was spotted by CCTV operators just 20 minutes later, when 2 men were seen acting suspiciously near a betting shop in Collerton Way. One of the men was seen putting a bag under his coat, which he'd picked up from an alleyway. He then walked into a betting shop with the other man. Police were alerted to the men, whom they searched and arrested for possession of cannabis. "Our message is simple," said Crystal Funyonga, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Public Health. "If you're stupid enough to commit crime in our borough, you will be seen and arrested. We will not tolerate a tiny minority of people acting in an unacceptable manner, and we will continue to work with our partners in the police to protect members of the public from this type of criminal behaviour."
Woman robbed. A woman in her 80s was robbed after being followed by a man who pulled her to the ground and snatched her handbag. She was attacked at around 3 p.m. on March the 1st in Thomas More Way, East Finchley. A quantity of cash was stolen from the victim, who had withdrawn the money from a bank in Ballard's Lane, Finchley Central, around 30 minutes before the robbery, before getting a bus to East Finchley. She was left with injuries to her face and knee, but recovered. The suspect drove away from the area in a grey Volkswagen Golf, which was parked nearby. He is described as a white, fair-skinned man, around 5'6" in height, and of slim build. He was wearing a black woolly hat, a dark jumper and khaki trousers. No arrests have been made and a police investigation continues. He is also believed to have filled up the same car using false number plates at a petrol station in North Finchley. The robber may have links to the North Finchley, Southgate or Arnos Grove areas and may have had access to the grey VW Golf on different number plates after the incident. It is possible that the woman had been seen withdrawing cash and followed to the scene of the robbery. Anyone with information should call Barnet CID on 101 or Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.
Olive, teacher and guides leader, dies at age of 102. A devoted teacher whose work touched thousands of lives has died at the age of 102. Olive Tash was a well-known teacher in Enfield and was also a leading figure in the guiding movement in Barnet. She grew up in Hornsey and later lived in Winchmore Hill Road, Southgate. She trained to be a teacher and took up her first post at Raglan Primary School in Bush Hill Park. Ms. Tash continued to teach throughout World War II before moving in 1955 to the then new Firs Farm School in Palmer's Green as deputy head. She taught a range of subjects at primary level, including English, history, arithmetic, needlework and nature study, and later became head teacher responsible for the junior section of the school. She built up a wide network of friendships, many around her main interests in guiding and the town's women's guild. Miss Tatch joined the Girl Guides and was a committed member of the movement for most of her life. She became a guide captain, initially in the 1st East Barnet group, before starting the 5th East Barnet Guides. She was district commissioner in Barnet for many years before becoming division commander. She became a member of the East Barnet Trefoil Guild and was also involved with the Northern Heights, the Guides campsite in Elstree, and was a member of the County Associates Guiding Group in Eastern Middlesex. Miss Tatch was also a long-time member of the town's Women's Guild and regularly attended meetings and events of the Southgate Monkfrith Guild. Her cousin, Phillip Tash, aged 74, from Welling Garden City, said, "People have said she was such a lovely woman, having a strong sense of humour. Her life was devoted to young people. As she got older, she would say, 'I might be going deaf, but I'm not daft.' Many generations of young people have benefited from her guidance." She moved to sheltered housing in Blake Court, Newsholme Drive, Winchmore Hill for her final 20 years to maintain her independence, but she needed increasing care in her last few years. She regularly joined services at Southgate Methodist Church. Miss Tatch, who was unmarried, died on December the 2nd. Her funeral service is due to take place at New Southgate Crematorium in Brunswick Park Road on Friday the 16th at 3:45 p.m.
Candlelit tours bring past to life. Time travel is not just for Doctor Who. volunteers are offering candlelit tours of an Enfield landmark. A talented volunteer cast of residents is conducting the tours at Forty Hall in Forty Hill, Enfield. Set in the 1940s, the tours recreate a wartime Christmas backdrop, packed full of history and drama. Visitors can expect to meet a surprise guest or two on an atmospheric tour of the house, which was built in 1632. And in true Christmas Carol style, the performers travel back to the Victorian era and then forwards in time to the 2011 restoration of the hall. The tours are directed by Enfield Council's Head of Leisure and Culture, Paul Everett, and the volunteers perform a script written by Mark Day, writer of the annual pantomime at Millfield Theatre in Edmonton. Resident Jane Newcombe, who's performing in this year's tour, said, "Forty Hall is a very special place to me. I've volunteered at the hall since 2012. Taking part is such a privilege." Mr. Everett said, "I'm so impressed by this group of volunteers who are imagining a bygone era and bringing it back to life. They've done their research, they've hunted for costumes in charity shops and customised them. They've rehearsed for weeks to get it just right, and they're ready to bring history alive for the residents of Enfield to help them better understand their past." 3 evenings of tours have already been staged, and there are more this week. They'll be at 6:30, 7:15 and 8 p.m. tomorrow and on Friday, and start at 5 p.m, 6:30 and 7:15 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Tickets cost £12 and include a glass of mulled wine.
Stop the Mini Holland madness. Residents say passing the latest Mini Holland scheme would ring the death knell for Enfield. People are planning to try to persuade councillors to stop the Mini Holland madness at a cabinet meeting this evening, Wednesday, December the 14th. They will be asked to sign the revised Enfield Town Plan, which was completely redesigned earlier this year. Although the nightmare of sending traffic through two-way Cecil Road has now gone, opponents say the scheme still chokes traffic into and round the town in one lane. The road closures also mean those who live on the route will not be able to receive heavy deliveries and emergency services will not be able to pass through. John Callan, who lives in Enfield, is furious the scheme will leave only 5 disabled parking spaces. He said, "To describe this as a magnificent investment suggests to me that the council is either ignorant or plain stupid. This looks like reckless endangerment of the borough as a whole. This is just bad, bad, bad." A report by Enfield Council's own consultants, Regeneris, advised the authority the likely outcome of the scheme would be harmful. While it is being built, it predicts businesses will decline by up to between 1% and 6%, and when it is over, takings could still be down by 6%. It also claims journey times will go up by up to 13% during peak hours for cars and buses. Vic Smith, who owns Vic Smith Beds in Southbury Road, Enfield Town, said, "Whoever implemented this scheme at the council is not in touch with reality. It will put shops out of business from Enfield Town through to Green Lanes. Who is going to be responsible when the first cyclist loses a life? The scheme is not safe, it's unjust and immoral." Councillor Terry Neville claimed he had never seen such a disgrace in his 30 years as a councillor. He added, "The revised cycling proposals for Enfield Town, which have not been the subject of any serious consultation, are fatally flawed inasmuch as the council's own consultants on air quality, traffic modelling and economic impact have all sounded warning bells." Enfield Council has been contacted for comment.
Walker gets a kick out of special school visit. Spurs star Kyle Walker played an unfamiliar style of football with children on a surprise visit to their school. The England player had to get down on his knees for a game at Waverley School in the Ryde, Ponders End. Victor Borkowski, Year 6, Eli Artemis Bloich, Year 6, and Guilherme Palace, Year 1, invited their football hero to play in a match of their own, on the mats in the school hall. The 3 pupils are supported by Noah's Ark Children's Hospice, and Walker made the visit as part of Tottenham Hotspur's partnership with the hospice to promote the charity's Precious Moments appeal. He said, "It's a massive reality check, having 2 boys myself. I've just come down to show my appreciation for what they do. I'm grateful for the support they give these kids. Being footballers, you can live in a bubble. I've got an auntie who has Down syndrome, so I see both sides of it. It's nice to come down here and give a little bit back. I've never played football this way before, but I'm going to try to take it back home and maybe get my little boy to play this instead of kicking the ball around the hallway and breaking loads of ornaments. I try to think I'm a normal person, but to some people I am different, and hopefully by coming here, signing a few things and saying hello, I can put a smile on faces." Alison Goodman of Noah's Ark joined Walker in the game of football with Victor, Eli and Gulerim. Afterwards she said, "It's made the day for so many children and families here. Noah's Ark is all about making every precious moment count and focusing always on what's possible. This is how Victor, Eli and Gulerim play football, and it's wonderful that Kyle got down on the mats to join them. We are extremely grateful on behalf of the children for whom Kyle is a hero, and also for the boost his support gives our annual appeal." Spurs' home match this Sunday against Burnley is dedicated to supporting the Precious Moments appeal. Readers who would like to help should visit www.noahsarkhospice.org.uk and click Donate.
Should council tax increase? Council tax could increase by nearly 2%, but poorer families won't have to pay a penny. Residents in Enfield are being asked if they think working families who receive council tax support should pay more. If agreed, pensioners, war widows, disabled people and a number of other vulnerable people will be exempt from paying the tax. It means the amount for those who do pay, the tax will go up by 1.5%. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Finance, Councillor Dino Lemonides, said the authority had to make £58.5 million of savings by 2021. He added, "Despite these funding reductions, we want to strike a balance between providing an affordable scheme and giving those in most need some financial support. We want to know what local people think of our proposals and the different options, so I'm urging people to take the time to complete the survey and tell us what they think. To respond, visit www.enfield.gov.uk. The consultation closes on January the 11th.
The perfect fit. The Mayor of Enfield spread some festive cheer at 4 of the borough's daycare centres. Bernadette Lepage and fellow Enfield councillor Alev Kazimoglu visited the centres, which provide activities for elderly people and those with dementia and learning disabilities, last Thursday. They spoke to members about their days at the centre, where they can make new friends in a safe environment which provide a change in scenery. Mrs. Lepage, whose mother had been a regular attender, thanked staff for their dedication and described them as unsung heroes. "My mother loved coming here on days out," said Mrs. Lepage at the Rose Taylor Centre in Sunny Road, Ponders End. "They give up a lot of their time and many people don't realise the hard work they put in." Mrs. Kazimoglu, Cabinet Member for Health and Social Care, added, "It's the staff's personalities shining through that makes it so welcoming for people to visit." Mrs. Lepage, whose charity Enfield Sounds Great, aims to engage residents from across the borough in music, said she was pleased that members appreciated it. "They told me how it helps them to communicate and to open up more, and to see music become transformational in that way for people is just magical," she added. Eileen Lewington, 90, who visits the centre every Thursday to take part in arts activities, including painting, said, "It's nice to meet people, and I've made lots of friends since coming here for a year." Mrs. Lepage and Mrs. Kazimoglu also visited the Formont Centre in Waverley Road, Enfield. New Options Centre in Connaught Road, Enfield Lock, and Bridge House in 40 Hill, Enfield.
No time frame for tube train repairs. Piccadilly line misery will continue for commuters with no end in sight. Travellers are still suffering severe delays on the Underground service as Transport for London works to repair damage done to trains. But TfL says the service has improved this week, with 75% of trains now in operation, compared to less than half when the line was first hit by delays. Leaves on the line have caused train wheels to lock, damaging track and wheels. That means the trains, which are old, need repairing. A spokesman said this week, "We normally have about 79 trains running daily, and there are about 60 now in operation." He was unable to say when a full service would be reinstated, adding, "We are a little way from getting the full service. We are still working on the trains, and we can't put a time limit on it." Affected stations in Enfield include Arnos Grove, Southgate, Oakwood and Cockfosters. TfL added, "The longer leaf fall period this year, coupled with the bad weather caused by Storm Angus, created conditions that caused a higher than usual proportion of our trains to be affected within a very short space of time. We will be able to return more trains to the line each day. However, there is a backlog of trains. We are working to restore a full timetabled service as quickly as possible." TfL says passengers who have had their journeys delayed by 15 minutes or more will be refunded the full cost of the single fare for each affected journey. Refunds will be backdated to November the 24th.
Council backs donor appeal. Borough is home to 78 people waiting for an organ donation. 2 minutes could help save the lives of the 78 Enfield residents waiting for an organ donation. Residents are being urged to sign up for the National Organ Donation Register during this month's campaign, which asks, "What are you waiting for?" Enfield became the first local authority in the UK to provide a link to join the register via its website in the autumn. Crystal Fonyonga, the Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Public Health, is urging more people to sign up as the campaign gets underway. "There are about 20% of people on the register," she said. "Unless they sign up to register, hospitals can do nothing. It takes 2 minutes to sign up. It takes 2 minutes to save a life. We're trying to make a push for people to sign up for it and raise awareness." She added, "In Enfield, 78 people right now are waiting for an organ. Unless people get onto the register, there's a risk they might die. It's heartbreaking." Across the UK, there are 6,500 people on the organ donation list waiting for the match, which could save their lives. This month's hard-hitting campaign reminds people that faffing can be fatal, loafing can be lethal. It challenges people who find it frustrating to wait 2 minutes for a bus to imagine how it feels to wait months for a donor. Caroline Baker, Enfield Council's project officer with the consultation and resident engagement team, was born with kidney failure and had to wait while potential donors were tested. Her brother proved to be a match, and she was giving a life-saving kidney transplant 10 years ago. "A few months after he'd undergone tests, he donated to me," she said. Ms Fonyonga said it was important that would-be donors discuss their decision with their families so everyone was aware of their wishes. For more information, visit www.organdonation.nhs.uk.
Junior gardeners reap their reward. Green-fingered youngsters at an Edmonton school have been hard at work transforming a plot of drab open space into a flowery wonderland. The pupils aged 9 and 10 from St Edmund's Primary School in Hertford Road, Edmonton, are members of the school's gardening club. The children dug flower beds, planted flowers and landscaped the Crescent Conservation Area in Hertford Road, close to their school, to make it a nice place for the wider community. The final design was shaped by the people of Edmonton during a public consultation which took place in the summer. The project to improve the Crescent includes a new footpath, a central paved area, an arc of shaped trees, and flower beds containing perennial flowers that provide a dash of colour all year round. The project is designed to manage rainwater sustainably by allowing it to run off into the flower beds. The flowers have been specially chosen to encourage bees and butterflies to visit the area. Head teacher Margaret Hanley said, "Our pupils have enjoyed taking responsibility for planting an area they use on their way to and from school. It has helped them to demonstrate good skills of citizenship, serving their community through their hard work, and it was great fun." Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Education, Children's Services and Protection, Aoife Orhan, said, "This is a brilliant project which has allowed the children to participate in a scheme that benefits the wider community. Every time they visit the Crescent, they will be reminded how their efforts have made a genuine difference to the community, and they should have an immense sense of pride and achievement in what they have done. They are a credit to the borough, and we are very grateful for their hard work and endeavour."
Christmas cheer. There was turkey, stuffing and all the trimmings at a festive celebration. More than 110 people attended a Christmas lunch organised by the Over 50s Forum. The event, held at the Enfield North Conservative Club in Baker Street, Enfield, was described as a great success. It was organised with the help of Group Chairman Monty Meth and attended by Mayor of Enfield, Councillor Bernadette Lepage. Mr Meth said, "We had a great time. There was great food, entertainment and dancing. The buffet was incredible. The atmosphere was very Christmassy and joyful."
Relief for residents as land auction is shelved. Residents have won another victory in blocking Enfield Council from selling a treasured area of green space. They're fighting a decision to auction off a plot of land at the junction of Albany Road and St Stephen's Road in Enfield Lock, as they fear it will be turned into housing. The land, just under 1/4 of an acre, was set for auction on Wednesday, but after Enfield Lock Ward Councillor Nika Kizor asked for a postponement for further consultation with residents, this has been shelved so that background issues can be considered. The auction came to light after a sign was put up on the plot. Residents successfully petitioned against the council's plans in 2004, when they were told by ward councillors that the land was registered and could not be sold. Residents Association Chairman Chris Theodorou, who has lived in Albany Road for 21 years, feels betrayed by the council and is concerned that more housing will make the area an even bigger hotspot for road accidents. "It's a safety issue for a start," he explained. "There have been accidents at the junction and a few near misses. Parking's also a concern. It's hard to find spaces in the road as they're taken up by shop owners and businesses," added Mr Theodorou. Valerie Collins, 77, who lives in Albany Road, said, "I'm worried about overcrowding if flats are built here," while fellow resident Dilip Singh, 34, who has 3 children, said, "After shopping with the kids, I often have to drop them off at the house first and then park because I can never find a space." The plot of land also serves as the nearest outdoor playing area for children in the summer. "Children have always played on it," said Edward Collins, 79, who also lives in Albany Road. "My children used to play on it and now my grandchildren do. We can watch them while standing across the road." A council spokeswoman said, "Following discussion with residents, we've decided to withdraw the property from the December auction to enable further consideration of the background issues and to look at this matter in more detail." Enfield North MP Ryan, whose support was enlisted back in 2004, said, "I urged the then council to give significant weight to the concerns of residents, to the impact on traffic levels of any proposals, and to the value of open space in densely populated residential streets. The case remains the same today, and I have already had a meeting with the Chief Executive and Leader of the Council to discuss this issue. The proposed auction of the land has been withdrawn, but this may not be permanent. I think it's very important that residents are kept fully informed and are consulted on this matter."
Uniform approach offers food for thought. Families living on the breadline over the festive holidays were given a helping hand from firefighters and air cadets who joined forces at the weekend to hand out Christmas hampers and food parcels. Southgate firefighters and Edmonton air cadets helped North Enfield Food Bank in Lumina Way to distribute much-needed supplies to residents on Saturday. A crew from Enfield Fire Station in Carterhatch Lane had visited food bank volunteers and handed out leaflets to shoppers in High Street Ponders End asking for food donations. Residents in crisis are referred to the food bank by Enfield Council and care professionals, who provide them with vouchers for 3 days' worth of emergency supplies to be exchanged within 6 months. North Enfield Food Bank opened in 2012 to help support Enfield residents and is supported by the Trussell Trust. Anyone who can volunteer is asked to contact Kerry Coe, North Enfield Food Bank manager, on 07826 542 119 or email info@northenfield.foodbank.org.uk.
We won't take this lying down. Neighbours say their street is plagued by rat runners because plans to ban drivers from turning right were rejected. People living in Warwick Road, Enfield, say motorists using their road as a cut-through is putting pressure on air pollution. After years of negotiation, Enfield Council finally agreed to create a right-turn ban at the end of the road, but it ended up rejecting its own plan. It said convenience of access for motorists was a deciding factor, but many claim the idling vehicles right outside their front door has led to breathing issues. Now, 315 people have signed a petition demanding a reconsideration of the ban to stop drivers using their street as a relief road for the overburdened A406, North Circular. 8-year-old Lola and her mother, Katie Dawson, told ITV News earlier this month how Lola's asthma had got worse as traffic increased. She has been in hospital 5 times and relies increasingly on medication and inhalers. Lucinda Perez of the Warwick Road Action Group said, "There is no way we are giving up. We have had our right to health and safety taken away by the very officials who are supposed to represent our interests. We will not take that lying down."
Chelsea pensioners join Legion's party. Chelsea pensioners are helping to ensure the sacrifice of soldiers are never forgotten with a party in their honour. More than 60 people attended an annual remembrance party which has been held at the Royal British Legion in Enfield for the past 30 years. The day was extra special because it was the 94th birthday of George Skipper, one of the 4 pensioners who was treated to a rendition of Happy Birthday. Mr. Skipper, who has the Legion d'Honneur, was joined by fellow pensioners Ronald Wilkin, June Lowe and Michael Shanahan.
Pint-sized boys' chicken shop reviews are a hit. Elijah searches for Pengist Munch. A pint-sized YouTuber who wears a suit and tie to review chicken shops has taken the internet by storm. The young Londoner, who calls himself the Chicken Connoisseur, became an online sensation last week, that's December the 9th, after his chicken shop review videos went viral. The videos see the young man, Elijah Kwashi, travel around the capital in search of the best fried chicken or the Pengist Munch. Ordering chicken wings, a burger and chips at each establishment, the connoisseur then rates them out of 5 and does not hold back on criticism. In his review of Tottenham's Chick King, he said, "Going into actual flavour, dead. And the wings? They're not far past mediocre." When he realised there was no burger sauce on offer, he asked, "How can I respect you?" But after videos in Tottenham, Edgware Road, Waterloo, Tufnell Park, Finsbury Park and Old Street, the people of East London are calling for their own reviews. Twitter soon flooded with tweets pleading with the superstar chicken shop reviewer to come to Western Fried Chicken in Hoe Street, Tex Bites in Leytonstone and Tennessee Chicken and Ribs in Walthamstow.
Imitation gun brandished at police called to bust up. A 22-year-old from Edmonton who threatened to shoot 2 police officers with a gun, which was later found to be an imitation, has been jailed for 2 years and 2 months. Ali Hussein of Plevna Road was stopped by police responding to reports of 3 men fighting in Edmonton Green shopping centre in the early hours of Thursday, September the 22nd. When police arrived, the men had made off, but the trio had been captured on CCTV and officers were provided with their descriptions. They were informed that one of the men in the footage was seen fiddling with his waistband. That man was Hussein, whom 2 police officers stopped at the South Mall of the shopping centre. When they tried to search him, he became aggressive and threatened to shoot them. The officers, who did not know at the time that the gun was an imitation, carried out a search and recovered the firearm from Hussein's pocket. During the arrest, he spat at police officers, as a result of which one of them needed to go to hospital as a precautionary measure. Hussein was sentenced at Wood Green Crown Court last Thursday after pleading guilty to firearm and assault charges. Speaking after the sentencing, PC Daniel Mount of Edmonton CID described it as a very dangerous situation in which Hussein had threatened to shoot an officer in the face. They did not know it was an imitation gun, he said. I'm pleased that Hussein received a custodial sentence, and this sends a strong message that we, along with the courts, will not tolerate assaults against police officers and staff.
Homeless people write uplifting lyrics to opera. Composer Litha Efthymiou's new opera features lyrics that were written by adults who are or have previously been homeless. The project is part of a national music programme run by Streetwise Opera, an award-winning charity that uses music to help people make positive changes to their lives. And the music is set to be performed in spring 2017, although a date and venue are yet to be confirmed. Litha, who lives in Palmer's Green and has been composing since she was 12 years old, wanted to get involved, as she believes singing in a group can help inspire and motivate those who are feeling a little lost. The 36-year-old explains how the opera is making a favourable impact on the lives of homeless people. Why do you want to get involved in this project? Why did you want to get involved in this project? Having followed Streetwise Opera's progress over the last few years, I have witnessed how captivating the artistic result of integrated collaboration between composer and workshop participants can be. By bringing their diverse experiences, full commitment and intoxicating energy to each new project, the participants of Streetwise Opera managed to unleash the full potential of the composers and other artistic partners working with them, fostering an exciting exchange that infuses their work with a gripping, distinctive edge. Too often, outreach in the arts is relegated to the fringes of large-scale productions, treated as a subsidiary afterthought. Streetwise Opera categorically defies this practice by bringing artistic outreach to the forefront of their enterprise, collaborating with the country's most esteemed artists in diverse and intriguing ways to create stimulating and meaningful work that pushes the boundaries of the operatic form. It was for these reasons that I was strongly drawn to being the composer. How has the opera made a positive impact in the lives of homeless people? Opera is a powerful art form that can help inspire, motivate and bring about positive change in the lives of individuals facing extensive adversity. Singing as a group is one of the most cathartic experiences anyone can hope to have. Have you been involved in any sort of projects like this before? No, I haven't. It's been a completely new and refreshing experience for me, and I'm really enjoying getting to grips with it. How did your career as a composer begin? I've been composing since I was 12 years old and have been thoroughly gripped by it ever since. I started composing professionally at the age of 23 when I, along with my sister Effie Efthymiou, who is also a composer, won a National Lottery Arts Fund to write music for a string quartet and dance project, which was performed at the Arcola Theatre in North London. Have you always been a composer, or do you also play an instrument or sing? I've always been a composer, but I also play the classical guitar. What's your all-time favourite song to compose? I love composing for voice. I think I'd like to write a piece for contralto voice next. What's next for you in the new year? Are you going to be composing any other shows around London? Yes, my new project, Rituals to Mould Her With, which was created with my sister Effie, will be performed in London on February the 5th at King's Place. It is a multidisciplinary stage work that has a strong theatrical, choreographic and directorial style, fusing music for harpsichord, electronics and percussion with theatre and movement. The music will be performed by progressive harpsichordist Jane Chapman, and the acting and movement will be performed by actor Esme Patey-Ford and dance artist Harriet Parker-Beldeau, the recent collaborator of Willie Dorner, Charles Lynham and Wayne McGregor. To find out more about Streetwise Opera, visit streetwiseopera.org.
Don't cut our trains. Consultation results due in new year. Commuters vented their frustrations over plans to run fewer trains on an already poor service. Great Northern wants to run 12 instead of 15 trains between Grange Park and Moorgate during the chaotic morning rush hour. Its consultation proposes 12 instead of 13 trains in the evening and 4 instead of 5 trains between 7 p.m. and 7:59 p.m. But the 180 people who attended a meeting at St Peter's Church in Vera Avenue, Enfield, say the plans are pointless and inconvenient. The meeting was chaired by MP David Burrows and attended by 3 representatives from Govia, the company that operates the service. People said reducing the trains during peak times would be detrimental to commuters, businesses and the community because it is an area with a growing number of working families. They fear passenger journeys are underestimated because of the lack of barriers, so people with freedom passes or travel cards do not tap in and out. At the meeting, one person said, the main issue at Grange Park is the current limited frequency of service, which is equally as important as train capacity. New, larger capacity trains don't negate the need for a frequent service during peak times. A reduction in both the morning and evening peak would be disruptive to commuters. A petition against the proposals has been signed by more than 840 people. Govia's consultation about the plans ended on Thursday, and the results are expected in the new year. Great Northern's Passenger Services Director, Stuart Cheshire, said, "I'm sincerely sorry that passengers have not been receiving the service they deserve. While we had over 9 out of 10 trains arriving on time yesterday and almost as many today, we have been beset by wet leaves crushed onto rails by passing trains into a slippery Teflon-like substance, and also signal problems that Network Rail is trying to address. We explained to councillors why there are also occasional cancellations caused by drivers being taken off duty to learn to drive new trains as we start to replace 75% of trains with new air-conditioned carriages."
Returning to Oz for a homegrown adventure. Full of energy, colour and adventure, Chicken Shed's Christmas show is a homegrown production. Adventure to Oz is the first festive show at the theatre in Chaseside, Southgate for artistic director Lou Steen, who also wrote the script and song lyrics. It's about a quest Ojo the unlucky munchkin embarks on to rescue his uncle when a magic spell goes wrong. Along the way, he explores Oz and meets some of its much-loved characters, including the Tin Man and Dorothy, as well as some new ones, all of whom help him with his mission. Advertiser photographer Anne-Marie Sanderson joined the cast for the final rehearsals as the Inclusive Theatre Company prepared for Curtain Up for the run which continues until January the 7th. The show was cast back in the summer and rehearsals started in September. The production involves 800 actors, singers and dancers who appear on a rota to ensure that everyone who wanted to get involved had a chance to join in the fun. Many of them have been performing and developing theatre skills at Chicken Shed for years. There are dozens more in the theatre crew working away behind the scenes on music, lighting, makeup and costume to create the show.
An opportunity missed. This is a letter from JCF Anna Rowe from Waltham Cross. What a lost opportunity to make Church Street in the town a peaceful, cleaner and safer area to enjoy. It's now to remain as a run-through and parking lot for cars. How absurd that the one healthy vehicle that does not pollute or kill others, the bicycle, is the only vehicle to be diverted away from Cecil Road. Enfield Council has given way to the self-serving interest of some of the businesses whose lucky customers will continue to breathe in poison and be at risk of injury from motor vehicles. And what have we seen recently? Why, 2 shoppers knocked down in Church Street. I know that the council likes to preserve the town, but why is it keeping it just as it was in the 1970s, with car domination, at the expense of the buses, cyclists and pedestrians? What image will this convey to visitors to Enfield in 2017?
And I have a letter here from Steve Backshaw, the Cubs 100 ambassador. And his heading is a shout out to all Cubs and the volunteers. This year marks Cubs 100, the centenary of the Cub Scout movement, and I'm lucky and proud to be ambassador for their monumental birthday party. It's been an incredible year so far, with trips, fun days and campouts, but the best is yet to come, with Cubs 100 birthday parties taking place across the country this week. For 100 years, Cub Scouts have been helping in their communities, and this year is no different. Through our A Million Hands project, Cubs in Enfield have been helping to make their community a better place to live and work in. I would also like to shout out to the volunteers in Enfield for their dedication each week to giving Cubs the chance to experience big adventures and take part in activities that could be life-changing. Volunteers, we salute you. During this special week, I would just like to say a big happy birthday to Cubs past and present as we look forward to another 100 years of endeavour, learning new skills, having fun and making lifelong friends.
And here's a letter from David Hughes of Palmer's Green entitled Open Your Eyes. I take exception to Colin Rickard's allegation, Cycle Scheme Misguided, opinion December the 7th, that there is something unconstitutional and immoral in the way that Enfield Council operates. Nonsense! Politicians are elected to take decisions on behalf of their communities. We may dislike political choices, hands up those who prefer Remain, but this choice has been made in good faith. Remember also that London's mayor allocated resources to Mini Holland, which has been provided for cycling by the government. And as a representative of the mayor's office said on BBC television on your publication day, the future ways of getting around London will be walking, cycling and public transport. Mr. Rickard's negative approach is a surprise given his background with the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. He must know that to avoid gridlock in London's population growth demands that the proportion of residents driving must fall. Meanwhile, G.A. Muse's devotion to cars reappeared on the same page with a claim that people will not be willing to cycle. Really? Must we suppose there's something in British DNA different to the Netherlands, where they had similar objections to a cycling revolution? These two contributors must travel around London eyes closed. Vast numbers of parked and moving cars are extending peak journey times by 3, 4 and 5 times, whilst doing dreadful things to public health in terms of lack of exercise and poor air quality. The only benefit to this is that an ever-rising number of cars makes for slower, safer travel, and sometimes a consequential better experience for pedestrians, cyclists and kids. Fat chance for bus passengers, though, trapped in a wide vehicle on a narrow road. I think moving or parked vehicles ruin the experience of social areas like high streets, which could be the reason why pedestrianised shopping streets are popular.
Statements like this don't help Mr. Taylor. This is a letter from Wendy Berry, Chairwoman of CAPE, which is Carers and Parents of Adults with Learning Disabilities in Enfield. She lives in New Southgate. I'm writing to say how shocked and horrified I was to read an article produced to support the Council's budget consultation entitled Money Matters and circulated to every property in Enfield along with the Council's Our Enfield newspaper. In this article, Council leader Doug Taylor explains significant financial issues facing the Council. This extract states that the cost of care provided to a child who has severe learning disabilities. A child unable to care for himself may require constant supervision from trained staff at a cost of up to £229,000 a year to the public purse. That is equivalent to the entire council tax paid by 161 average households in our borough in 2016 to 17. My adult son has very severe learning disabilities and attended Enfield's first-rate special school for the most profoundly disabled children, Waverley School. I chaired the governing body and the finance committee for many years. Although I am not privy to the seemingly excessive costs quoted by Mr. Taylor, I believe I am qualified to reassure Enfield residents that the vast majority of learning disabled children live with their families, who make huge sacrifices to provide the required care for their beloved children, at minimal cost to the council taxpayer. Vulnerable people already face cruel cuts to services and will continue to do so. The additional burden of exclusion, marginalisation, discrimination, bullying and even hate crime is increasing. This misleading and inaccurate statement extracted from Money Matters only serves to exacerbate this situation. I am extremely disappointed that Mr. Taylor felt this was an appropriate way of making a point about the costs of supporting vulnerable people. He has effectively demonised an entire group by referencing an exaggerated and unusual set of circumstances which most residents would not understand. Children with learning disabilities are unable to defend themselves, although I can absolutely assure you that their families will continue to fight for their children's right to a decent life.
And I have a letter here from Reuben Decotts, who is actually a columnist in the Gazette and Advertiser. My name is Reuben, and I am the proud chairman of Enfield Youth Parliament, that's EYP. I was one of 30 young people aged between 11 and 19, or up to 25 for those with disabilities, elected by 8,000 young people in Enfield to represent the schools in the borough, but most importantly, the young people who attend them. Why am I proud? I am proud because I feel that we truly represent young people. We are unlike any government that finds it difficult to represent their needs. We give a voice to those of us in Enfield who aren't able to vote. That's anyone under 18. We make up for not being able to vote in ways that have surprised me. We represent everyone in the borough within our age group, which includes 22,000 11 to 18-year-olds in schools and colleges. This is what gives EYP the drive, purpose and ability to achieve. With these huge numbers behind us, we help organisations such as Enfield Council, the police and the NHS understand what it's like to be a young person in our borough. With our youth appeal and links into schools, the EYP has been able to get Enfield heard at a national level by making sure 5,000 of our borough's votes were counted towards the UK Youth Parliament's Make Your Mark campaign. We also have our own projects, including developing a YouTube channel to share videos with young people. We intend to leave these projects as a legacy for all future Enfield youth parliamentarians. This is why we are proud. Proud of the influence we have, proud of our actions, but most of all, proud of the 22,000 young people we represent.
It's an important announcement from NHS Enfield for services over the winter season to relieve some of the pressures that might build up. There are extra weekday, evening and weekend GP appointments. If you're registered with a GP practice in Enfield, or indeed resident in Enfield but have yet to register with a practice, you can now benefit from an appointment with a GP or other healthcare professional on weekday evenings, weekends and bank holidays at a new primary care access hub. This is for urgent and routine appointments, either same day or pre-bookable, and they're available from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Monday to Friday and 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at weekends and bank holidays. Bookings easy. Contact your GP practice in the usual way and ask for a weekday evening or weekend appointment, or call the Primary Care Access Hub direct on 0300 333 666. That's 0300 333 666. The Primary Care Access Hub location is at 1 Smythe Close, Edmonton, N90TW, and it's the Evergreen Primary Care Centre. Please note again, it's not a walk-in service, and you will need to book via either your GP practice or by calling 0300 333 666, and they're launching further access hubs in January 2017. Over the season as well, don't forget you could ask your pharmacist. Pharmacists are there to give you expert advice on a wide range of long-term conditions and common illnesses such as coughs, colds and stomach upsets. You don't need an appointment, and many pharmacies have private consultation areas, so they're good as a first port of call. Your pharmacist will say if you need further medical attention. And you can also approach your pharmacist to advise you on some common winter ailments: colds, sore throats, coughs, sinusitis, painful middle ear infection, as earaches should not be treated with antibiotics as a first choice. So go to your pharmacist and they can advise you on which medicines you should have in your cabinet to help you get through you and your family through this winter season. Please remember, A&E is for life-threatening illnesses only. Call NHS 111 if you need medical help fast, but it's not a 999 emergency. And here's Ali and John with some more things that are going on in the area.
More changes to your refuse collections, and these are permanent ones, to your green bin service, which will change in March. So what will happen is, instead of your green bin being collected every week, it will be fortnightly collections from March 2017. Most ordinary collection days will remain the same, and your green bin will just be collected every other week. But in February 2017, you will receive a calendar confirming your collection dates. And if you want to find out more, you need to go to www.enfield.gov.uk.
Right, slightly different announcement. Everyone aboard your magic carpets. Aladdin opens at Millfield Theatre, and I hope I didn't hear you say no, it doesn't, because oh yes, it does. Millfield Theatre opened its doors to North London audiences eager to watch the hotly anticipated Aladdin. The famous Millfield Panto is back with a bang, packed full with breathtaking special effects, including a spectacular magic carpet ride, stunning costumes, beautiful scenery, and, of course, lots of comedy and favourite panto gags. Follow the adventures of Aladdin, played by Colin Kearney, who dreams of winning the heart of Princess Jasmine, Winona Khan, and providing a better life for his mother, Widow Twankey, Phillip Day, and brother, wishy-washy, Chris Wills. With the promise of an inheritance to make him as rich as a prince, the evil sorcerer Abanazar, the excellent Alex Scott Fairley, tricks Aladdin into helping him retrieve a mysterious magic lamp hidden in a secret cave. Written and directed by creative producer Mark Day, the Millfield Theatre pantomime has been a fundamental part of the venue's professional programme since the 1988 performance of Humpty Dumpty. The production is homegrown, from writing through to set build, and involves 80 people annually, from choreographers through to box office staff. So what are you waiting for? Traditional family theatre at its very best, right here on your doorstep, up until Christmas and beyond. Aladdin runs until the 31st of December. Tickets are £19 and £16, concessions £18 and £15. Concessions online. Family ticket for 2 adults and 2 young persons, £66. Online, £62. And visit www.millfieldtheatre.co.uk or phone 0208 807 6680.
Cockfosters claim a stunning victory. Cockfosters once again showed that they are more than a match for the very best teams in the Spartan Premier Division as they eased to a 2-0 victory at second-placed Hertford Town on Saturday. The Reds, who are third in the table, had stunned league leaders London Colney in their previous away match, and they were equally impressive in this encounter as they overcame the pre-season title favourites, courtesy of goals from Yanis Varoufakis and Meshach Williams. It was a famous away win, and I thought we deserved it, said manager Dean Barker. It was the first time that Cockfosters have ever won at Hertford, and it was a brilliant day for the club. We scored early on and defended very well after that. We hit them on the break a few times and finally got the second goal to seal the win. Our away form is fantastic, and it was great to see the joy on the faces of the players after the match. We know that realistically we're not going to win the league, but we like playing the big boys and there is a fantastic spirit at the club. We're continuing to break records and make history for the club. We're not getting carried away, but we're enjoying it, and sometimes you've got to give yourselves a pat on the back. Barker added, I'm really pleased that Meshach got a goal. He started the season with us and left to go to Hoddesdon, but he's come back, and his attitude has been fantastic since he returned. Cockfosters host Leighton Town on Saturday, 3 p.m, with golfer Andrew Beef Johnston, who finished 8th in the Open Championship this year, expected to be in attendance.
Old Habs thrash Ignatians. Blue and Gold's well beaten by league leaders. Enfield Ignatians fell to a 32-8 defeat to London 2 North West league leaders Old Haberdashers on Saturday. The Blue and Gold suffered on the scoreboard for most of the first half hour and were hit for 3 tries. But they did start to string the phases together, and in the final 10 minutes they were punished when there was a high tackle which was resulted in a penalty, and John Wilson struck the target. The second half started like the first, with Old Habs scoring their 4th, but this time the visitors replied with a well-executed try from a catch and drive at the line-out via prop Christo Kasabi. Ignatians continued to ramp up their efforts, but Old Habs eventually unpicked Enfield's defensive lock for their 5th and final try. Coach Ali Cook said, the side put in a monumental defensive shift, and the effort, the commitment and the work rate were first rate. The second half was a step up on the first period, but we need to ensure that we keep the pressure on when on the attack. Enfield, who currently sit in 10th, will take on the side who sit just below them in the league, Welling, on Saturday, December the 17th at Donkey Lane. The combined group of Enfield under-17s and under-16s beat their old Verulamium's counterparts 12-3. Finlay Mackay and Lawrence Liu both scored.
Points shared. Enfield Town failed to get maximum reward for some terrific attacking play as they were held to a thrilling 3-3 draw at home to high-flying Needham Market in the Ryman Premier Division on Saturday. A dramatic start to the contest saw Billy Crook fire Town into the lead after little more than a minute, but Needham came storming back, with goals from Callum Harrison from the penalty spot and Rhys Dobson putting them ahead by the 10th minute. However, the hosts were a genuine threat going forward, and Harry Ottaway and Mickey Parcell found the target to deservedly restore their advantage by the interval. Town created numerous opportunities to make the game safe, but were unable to take any of them, and were made to pay the price when John Sands grabbed a late equaliser as the points were shared. It was very frustrating and it definitely felt like 2 points dropped, said manager Bradley Quinton. With the chances we created, we could have scored 6 or 7, but we should have been able to see the game out. Overall, we're going well and are playing some entertaining football. We're looking like a better team than we were last season. I'm pleased with the lads, but we have to start turning some of these draws into wins. I want to have a lot more points on the board by the end of January. Little more than 60 seconds had been played when Town broke the deadlock after a good move down the left, ended with a low cross from which the ball was laid back to Crook, and he drilled an unstoppable shot into the net from 20 yards. The hosts were only in front for 6 minutes as Needham were awarded a penalty after Dobson went down under keeper Nathan McDonald's challenge, having found himself through on goal. Harrison made no mistake from the spot. 2 minutes later, the visitors were ahead as a quick break saw Darryl Coakley put Dobson clear and the striker finished with aplomb. Town took control after this, though, and Parcells squandered a good opportunity before they levelled the score on 28 minutes when Ottaway headed in Crook's corner from close range. Ottaway then blazed over with a goal at his mercy from 10 yards out before the hosts went ahead in the 36th minute, when Parcell applied the finishing touches to a sweeping move involving Ottaway and Bobby Devine. The hosts continued to have the better of the play in the second half, with Devine firing wide when it seemed easier to score and Durnell Winter being denied by keeper Danny Gay at point-blank range. But the fourth goal would not come, and Needham snatched an unlikely point 3 minutes from time when Sands controlled a cross at the far post, fired low into the net to condemn Town to a third draw in 4 matches. Enfield Town make the trip to Leatherhead on Saturday at 3 p.m.
Praise for sporting stars of tomorrow. Sainsbury's gives school 2 awards. Sporty children have been given an award praising them for their hard work. Enfield Grammar School was amongst a handful of schools across the country to be given 2 gold medals for outstanding sporting provision. It is the only secondary school in the country to have been given both the School Games Award and Gold Youth Sport Trust Gold Quality Mark. In the same week, the under-12 football team won the Borough Five-a-side tournament, beating St Ignatius 2-1, while the under-12 rugby team won the Middlesex Plate rugby competition, beating UCS 20-0. Meanwhile, the under-16 rugby team won the Middlesex Plate competition, beating Latimer Upper 20-10.
Enfield boxers 2 knockdowns, too much for Hosea Burton. Buglioni's late flurry lands title glory. Enfield boxer Frank Buglioni produced a stunning last-round stoppage to win the British light heavyweight title against Hosea Burton in Manchester on Saturday night. Buglioni was behind on points, but 2 knockdowns in the 12th round dramatically landed the victory to end Burton's unbeaten record. Wise guy Buglioni endured a tough opening round with a flurry of punches from Burton giving him the advantage. But Buglioni responded strongly in the second round as he took the initiative and had the better of the exchanges. The momentum continued to build for Buglioni in the next round, with Burton on the back foot. But the champion gained the upper hand in the 4th round with a series of blows doing some damage. The fight continued to ebb and flow in the next round, with each fighter unleashing several blows on his opponent. Buglioni suffered a cut to his eyebrow in the 6th round, but this did not deter him as he continued to come forward. The Enfield boxer increased his urgency in the 7th round, and his aggressive style put Burton under more pressure. The champion pushed on in the 9th, and a series of fierce punches put him in command against the challenger. Buglioni rallied in the 11th round and had Burton in trouble with a number of heavy blows. He scored the knockdown, although the title holder protested against the count. Time was running out for Buglioni in the final 3 minutes, but he knocked down his rival and Burton staggered to his feet. Buglioni went in for the kill, and a big punch was too much for Burton as the referee waved the fight off to give the Enfield boxer an unforgettable victory. The 27-year-old, who welcomed a rematch against Burton, told Sky Sports, "I've been working hard for 5 years, plenty of ups and downs, and I've finally got the British title. It was a hard fight, but I dug deep and grinded it out. Going into the last, I felt I needed the stoppage. Full credit to Hosea Burton. He showed tremendous heart in there, great skills, and he's definitely improved. It was a great fight for the fans, so why not do it again? Bullioni also said on Twitter, sitting next to an absolute warrior and gentleman, Hosea Burton, waiting for stitches after our hard-fought war. Promoter Eddie Hearn described their clash as the fight of the year.
And now you must imagine us sitting in our Christmas hats and having a little festive drink and nibbles. And here is our Christmas contribution to you. A Child's Christmas in Wales by Dylan Thomas. This is an extract. One Christmas was so much like another in those years around the Seatown corner, now and out of all sound, except the distant speaking of the voices I sometimes hear a moment before sleep, that I can never remember whether it snowed for 6 days and 6 nights when I was 12, or whether it snowed for 12 days and 12 nights when I was 6.
All the Christmases roll down toward the two-tongued sea like a cold and headlong moon bundling down the sky that was our street. And they stop at the rim of the ice-edged, fish-freezing waves, and I plunge my hands in the snow and bring out whatever I can find. In goes my hand into that wool-white, bell-tongued ball of holidays resting at the rim of the carol-singing sea, and out come Mrs. Prothero and the fireman.
It was on the afternoon of the Christmas Eve, and I was in Mrs. Prothero's garden, waiting for cats, with her son Jim. It was snowing. It was always snowing at Christmas. December in my memory is white as Lapland, though there were no reindeers. But there were cats. Patient, cold and callous, our hands wrapped in socks, we waited to snowball the cats, sleek and long as jaguars and horrible whiskered, spitting and snarling. They would slink and sidle over the white back garden walls, and the lynx-eyed hunters, Jim and I, fur-capped and moccasin trappers from Hudson Bay, off Mumbles Road, would hurl our deadly snowballs at the green of their eyes. The wise cats never appeared.
We were so still, Eskimo-footed Arctic marksmen in the muffling silence of the eternal snows, eternal ever since Wednesday, that we never heard Mrs. Prothero's first cry from her igloo at the bottom of the garden. Or if we heard it at all, it was to us like the far-off challenge of our enemy and prey, the neighbour's polar cat. But soon the voice grew louder. "Fire!" cried Mrs. Prothero, and she beat the dinner gong.
And we ran down the garden with the snowballs in our arms toward the house. And smoke indeed was pouring out of the dining room, and the gong was bombilating, and Mrs. Prothero was announcing ruin like a town crier in Pompeii. This was better than all the cats in Wales standing on the wall in a row. We bounded into the house, laden with snowballs, and stopped at the open door of the smoke-filled room.
Something was burning all right. Perhaps it was Mr. Prothero, who always slept there after midday dinner with a newspaper over his face. But he was standing in the middle of the room, saying, "A fine Christmas," and smacking at the smoke with a slipper. "Call the fire brigade," cried Mrs. Prothero as she beat the gong. "They won't be there," said Mr. Prothero. "It's Christmas." There was no fire to be seen, only clouds of smoke, and Mr. Prothero standing in the middle of them, waving his slipper as though we were conducting. "Do something," he said, and we threw all our snowballs into the smoke. I think we missed Mr. Prothero, and ran out of the house to the telephone box. "Let's call the police as well," Jim said, "and the ambulance, and Ernie Jenkins. He likes fires."
We only called the fire brigade, and soon the fire engine came, and 3 tall men in helmets brought a hose into the house, and Mr. Prothero got out just in time before they turned it on. Nobody could have had a noisier Christmas Eve. And when the fireman turned off the hose and was standing in the wet, smoky room, Jim's aunt, Miss Prothero, came downstairs and peered in at them. Jim and I waited very quietly to hear what she would say to them. She said the right thing, always. She looked at the 3 tall firemen in their shining helmets, standing among the smoke and cinders and dissolving snowballs, and she said, "Would you like anything to read?" Christmas Landscape by Laurie Lee. Tonight the wind gnaws with teeth of glass. The jackdaw shivers in caged branches of iron. The stars have talons. There is hunger in the mouth of vole and badger, silver agonies of breath in the nostril of the fox, ice on the rabbit's paw. Tonight has no moon, no food for the pilgrim. The fruit tree is bare, the rose bush a thorn, and the ground is bitter with stones. But the mole sleeps, and the hedgehog lies curled in a womb of leaves. The bean and the wheat seed hug their germs in the earth, and the stream moves under the ice. Tonight there is no moon, but a new star opens like a silver trumpet over the dead. Tonight in a nest of ruins the blessed babe is laid. And the fir tree warms to a bloom of candles. The child lights his lantern, stares at his tinselled toy. Our hearts and hearths smoulder with live ashes. In the blood of our grief, the cold earth is suckled in our agony, the womb convulses its seed. In the cry of anguish, the child's first breath is born.
And I have BC AD by U.A. Fanthorpe. This was the moment when before turned into after, and the future's uninvented timekeepers presented arms. This was the moment when nothing happened. Only dull peace sprawled boringly over the earth. This was the moment when even energetic Romans could find nothing better to do than counting heads in remote provinces. And this was the moment when a few farm workers and 3 members of an obscure Persian sect walked haphazard by starlight straight into the kingdom of heaven.
And now a traditional recipe from about 1814, bird surprise. Take a large olive, stone it, and then stuff it with a paste made of anchovy, capers and oil. Put the olive inside a trussed and boned beckfig. Put the beckfig inside a fat ortolan. Put the ortolan inside a boned lark. Put the stuffed lark inside a boned thrush. Put the thrush inside a fat quail. Put the quail, wrapped in vine leaves, inside a boned lapwing. Put the lapwing inside a boned golden plover. Put the plover inside a fat, boned, red-legged partridge. Put the partridge inside a young, boned, and well-hung woodcock. Put the woodcock, rolled in breadcrumbs, inside a boned teal. Put the teal inside a boned guinea fowl. Put the guinea fowl, well larded, inside a young and boned tame duck. Put the duck inside a boned and fat fowl. Put the fowl inside a well-hung pheasant. Put the pheasant inside a boned and fat wild goose. Put the goose inside a fine turkey. And put the turkey inside a boned bustard. Having arranged your roast after this fashion, place it in a large saucepan with onions, stuffed with cloves, carrots, small squares of ham, celery, mignonette, several strips of bacon well seasoned, pepper, salt, spice, coriander seeds, and 2 cloves of garlic. Seal the saucepan hermetically by closing it with pastry. Then put it for 10 hours over a gentle fire and arrange it so that the heat can penetrate evenly. An oven moderately heated will suit better than the hearth. Before serving, remove the pastry, put the roast on a hot dish after having removed the grease if there is any, and serve.
So here is an excerpt from Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. The week before Christmas, when snow seemed to lie thickest, was the moment for carol singing. And when I think back to those nights, it is the crunch of snow and to the lights of the lanterns on it. Carol singing in my village was a special tithe for the boys. The girls had little to do with it, like haymaking, blackberrying, stone clearing, and wishing people a happy Easter. It was one of our seasonal perks.
By instinct, we knew just when to begin it. A day too soon, and we should have been unwelcome. A day too late, and we should have received lean looks from people whose bounty was already exhausted. When the true moment came, exactly balanced, we recognised it and were ready. So, as soon as the wood had been stacked in the oven to dry for the morning fire, we put on our scarves and went out through the streets, calling loudly between our hands till the various boys who knew the signal ran out from their houses to join us. One by one they came stumbling over the snow, swinging their lanterns around their heads, shouting and coughing horribly. "Come in, Carol Barking, then."
We were the church choir, so no answer was necessary. For a year we'd praised the Lord out of key, and as a reward for this service, on top of the outing, we now had the right to visit all the big houses, to sing our carols and collect our tribute. To work them all, it meant a 5-mile foot journey over wild and generally snowed-up country. So the first thing we did was to plan our route. A formality, as the route never changed. All the same, we blew on our fingers and argued, and then we chose our leader. This was not binding, for we all fancied ourselves as leaders, and he who started the night in that position usually trailed home with a bloody nose.
8 of us set out that night. There was Sixpence the tanner, who had never sung in his life. He just worked his mouth in church. The brothers Horace and Boney, who were always fighting everybody and always getting the worst of it. Clergy Green, the preaching maniac. Walt the bully, and my 2 brothers. As we went down the lane, other boys from other villages were already about the hills, bawling "King Wenslush" and shouting through keyholes. "Knock on the knocker, ring at the bell, give us a penny for singing so well." They weren't an approved charity as we were, the choir, but competition was in the air.
Our first call, as usual, was the house of the squire, and we trooped nervously down his drive. For light, we had candles in marmalade jars suspended on loops of string, and they threw pale gleams on the towering snowdrifts that stood on each side of the drive. A blizzard was blowing, but we were well wrapped up, with army puttees on our legs, woolen hats on our heads, and several scarves around our ears. As we approached the big house across its white, silent lawns, we too grew respectfully silent. The lake nearby was stiff and black, the waterfall frozen and still. We arranged ourselves, shuffling around the big front door, then knocked and announced the choir.
A maid bore the tidings of our arrival away into the echoing distances of the house, and while we waited we cleared our throats noisily. Then she came back and the door was left ajar for us, and we were bidden to begin. We brought no music. The carols were in our heads. "Let's give 'em Wild Shepherds," said Jack. We began in confusion, plunging into a wreckage of keys, of different words and tempo, but we gathered our strength. He who sang loudest took the rest of us with him, and the carol took shape, if not sweetness.
This huge stone house with its ivied walls was always a mystery to us. What were those gables, those rooms and attics, those narrow windows veiled by the cedar trees? As we sang Wild Shepherds, we craned our necks, gaping into that lamp-lit hall, which we had never entered, staring at the muskets and untenanted chairs, the great tapestries furred by dust, until suddenly, on the stairs, we saw the old squire himself, standing and listening with his head on one side. He didn't move until we'd finished. Then slowly he tottered towards us, dropped 2 coins in our box with a trembling hand, scratched his name in the book we carried, gave us each a long look with his moist, blind eyes, then turned away in silence.
As though released from a spell, we took a few sedate steps, then broke into a run for the gate. We didn't stop till we were out of the grounds. Impatient at last to discover the extent of his bounty, we squatted by the cowsheds, held our lanterns over the book, and saw that he had written 2 shillings. This was quite a good start. No one of any worth in the district would dare to give us less than the squire. So with the money in the box, we pushed on up the valley, pouring scorn on each other's performance. Confident now, we began to consider our quality, and whether one carol was not better suited to us than another. Horace, Walt said, shouldn't sing at all. His voice was beginning to break. Horace disputed this, and there was a brief token battle. They fought as they walked, kicking up divots of snow. Then they forgot it, and Horace still sang.
Steadily we worked through the length of the valley, going from house to house, visiting the lesser and the greater gentry, the farmers, the doctors, the merchants, the majors, and other exalted persons. It was freezing hard and blowing too, yet not for a moment did we feel the cold. The snow blew into our faces, into our eyes and mouths, soaked through our puttees, got into our boots, and dripped from our woolen caps. But we didn't care. The collecting box grew heavier, and the list of the names in the book grew longer and more extravagant, each trying to outdo the other. Mile after mile we went, fighting against the wind, falling into snowdrifts, and navigating by the lights of the houses, and yet we never saw our audience. We called at house after house. We sang in courtyards and porches, outside windows, or in the damp gloom of hallways. We heard voices from hidden rooms. We smelt rich clothes and strange hot food. We saw maids bearing in dishes or carrying away coffee cups. We received nuts, cakes, figs, preserved ginger, dates, cough drops and money, but we never once saw our patrons. We sang, as it were, at the castle walls, and apart from the squire, who had shown himself to prove that he was still alive, we never expected it otherwise.
As the night drew on, there was trouble with Boney. Noel, for instance, had a rousing harmony which Boney persisted in singing, and singing flat. The others forbade him to sing it at all, and Boney said he would fight us. Picking himself up, he agreed we were right. Then he disappeared altogether. He just turned away and walked into the snow, and wouldn't answer when we called him back. Much later, as we reached a far point up the valley, somebody said, "Hark!" And we stopped to listen. Far away across the fields from the distant village came the sound of a frail voice singing Noel and singing it flat. It was Boney branching out on his own.
We approached our last house high up on the hill, the place of Joseph, the farmer. For him we had chosen a special carol, which was about the other Joseph, so that we always felt that singing it added a spicy cheek to the night. The last stretch of country to reach his farm was perhaps the most difficult of all. In these rough, bare lanes, open to all winds, sheep were buried and wagons lost. Huddled together, we tramped in one another's footsteps. Powdered snow blew into our screwed-up eyes. The candles burnt low. Some blew out altogether, and we talked loudly above the gale. Crossing at last the frozen mill stream, whose wheel in summer still turned a barren mechanism, we climbed up to Joseph's farm. Sheltered by trees, warm on its bed of snow, it seemed always to be like this. As always, it was late. As always, this was our final call. The snow had a fine crust upon it, and the old trees sparkled like tinsel. We grouped ourselves round the farmhouse porch. The sky cleared, and broad streams of stars ran down over the valley and away to Wales. On Slad's white slopes, seen through the black sticks of its wood, some red lamps still burned in the windows.
Everything was quiet. Everywhere there was the faint, crackling silence of the winter night. We started singing, and we were all moved by the words and the sudden trueness of our voices. Pure, clear, and breathless we sang.
As Joseph was a-walking, he heard an angel sing, "This night shall be the birth time of Christ the heavenly King. He neither shall be born in house nor in hall, nor in a place of paradise, but in an ox's stall."
And 2,000 Christmases became real to us then. The houses, the halls, the places of paradise had all been visited. The stars were bright to guide the kings through the snow, and across the farmyard we could hear the beasts in their stalls. We were given roast apples and hot mince pies, in our nostrils were spices like myrrh, and in our wooden box, as we headed back for the village, there were golden gifts for all.
Here is an excerpt from A Wain in a Manger by Gervase Finn. At one little primary school deep in the Dales, I attended an unforgettable nativity play which was improvised by the children. This is not always a good idea because small children can be very unpredictable, particularly when faced with an appreciative audience. Mary, a pretty little thing of about 6 or 7, was busy bustling about the stage, wiping and dusting, when the angel of the Lord appeared stage right. The heavenly spirit was a tall, self-conscious boy with a plain, pale face and sticky-out ears. He was dressed in a flowing white robe, large paper wings, and sported a tinsel halo, somewhat crooked. Having wiped his nose on his sleeve, he glanced around suspiciously, then sidled up to Mary, as a dodgy market trader might, to see if you were interested in buying something from under the counter.
"Who are you?"
Mary asked sharply, putting down her duster and placing her hands on her hips. This was not the quietly spoken, gentle-natured Mary I was used to.
"I'm the angel Gabriel,"
the boy replied, with a deadpan expression and in a flat voice.
"Well, what do you want?"
"Are you Mary?
"Yes."
I come with tidings of great joy.
"What?"
I've got some good news.
"What is it?"
You're having a baby."
"I'm not."
"You are.
"Who says?"
God, and he sent me to tell you.
"Well, I don't know nothing about this."
And it will be a boy, and he will become great, and be called,
The boy stalled for a moment.
Called Son of the Most High, the King of Kings. He will rule forever, and his reign will have no end."
"What if it's a girl?"
"It won't be.
"You don't know, might be."
It won't, 'cause God knows about these things.
Oh.
And you must call it Jesus."
Well, I don't like the name Jesus. Can I call him something else?
"No."
What about Gavin?
"No.
The angel snapped.
You have to call it Jesus, otherwise you don't get it.
All right then.
Mary agreed.
And look after it."
I don't know what I'm going to tell Joseph.
The little girl said, putting on a worried expression and picking up her duster.
"Tell him it's God's."
Okay.
Mary said, smiling for the first time. When the angel of the Lord had departed, Joseph entered. He was a cheeky-faced little boy dressed in a brown woolen dressing gown, thick blue socks, and a multicoloured towel over his head, held in place by the inevitable elastic belt with a snake clasp.
"Hello, Mary,"
he said.
"Oh, hello, Joseph."
Mary replied.
"Have you had a good day?"
"Yeah, pretty good, really."
She told him, nodding theatrically.
"Have you anything to tell me?"
There was a slight pause before she replied.
"I'm having a baby. Oh, and it's not yours." Now we've got a little bit of a quiz for you and a request for your help. Do you remember this?
Hello there. We welcome you to Enfield microphone number 12 in a slightly different style from usual.
That was the intro music we used in our earlier days, with Patricia Albert, who's now our president, introducing that clip from the 24th of February, 1962. How about this?
This is Peter Sykes introducing the 300th edition of the Enfield microphone. Dateline 29th of September 1974.
That was Peter Sykes, who's now our Vice President, introducing our 300th edition on the 29th of September 1974. Our title music then was As You Please by Raymond Lefebvre, which some of you may remember was also used as the theme tune to TV programme Pebble Mill. How about this?
Hello everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the Enfield microphone. With Dateline the 18th of September 1982, we arrive at edition number 500.
That was Peter again, introducing our 500th edition on the 18th of September 1982. Our title music was Country Rock Polka by Jean-Jacques Perret, the acclaimed master of the Moog, who has kindly given us permission to use his composition to introduce our recordings. We've been using Country Rock Polka as our title music for 35 years and have decided it's time for a bit of a refresh. We're delighted that local composer David Loxley Blount has offered to create a new audio identity for Enfield Talking News. We quite like the jolly tone set by our current music, but wanted to know what you think. Let us know what you like or don't like about the current music and what you'd like to hear in the future. The new sound that David composes might be a variation on an existing theme. Perhaps you know of a song with an Enfield connection that you can tell us about. David will begin work on the composition in the spring, and we're keen to hear from as many listeners as possible to help come up with a fantastic new sound that reflects what ETN means to its listeners. Get in touch and let us know your thoughts.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Caroline, Ali and John, with Peter on the controls, it's Happy Christmas! Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the memory stick into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again on the 5th of January 2017.